This is Matt Russell, and welcome to the Daily FX Forum.
So here are the 5 pairs that I will be discussing this evening: the Euro Pound, the Aussie Kiwi, the Pound Swiss, the Euro Swiss, as well as the Euro Aussie. So let's go ahead and pull up the charts. The first chart is the Euro Pound, and the short trade from 88.23 continues. I would just keep that stop at 88.75. Again, I know I keep on repeating myself, but that 88.40 area should be stiff resistance over the next several weeks or months. The next chart is the Aussie Kiwi, and again, the short trade, which triggered 3 reports back, short from 127 with a stop at 127.80 originally. I mentioned 2 reports back to move the stop down to break even. I also mentioned for the past 2 reports to place a limit at 125.10. That limit should have been hit during yesterday's session. If it was not, if you're still in this trade, I would exit right now with the gain. If you did exit at 125.10, that's a 190 pip gain. So moving forward now, I might expect the previous support line here to act as resistance, but I'm going to wait at least another day or so and see how that kind of pans out, see if prices do hit that line. The only thing that does concern me is this was a large red candle, so we might get some snapback here. Ideally, I'd like to see this level hold a little bit and then break, and then I might consider this a more relevant potential resistance line. So again, I will update during tomorrow's report. The next chart is the Pound Swiss, and again, the short trade from 170.30 or 170.25. It really depends exactly where you entered. Again, when I mentioned this specific trade, I did not expect it to trigger within the next 24-hour period. I mentioned 2 price levels, 170.25 and 170.35, and prices actually got up to 170.30. So again, there's a good possibility some of you might be in the trade, some of you might not be, but if you are in the trade, I would continue to stay in it, and again, keep that stop at 171.25. The next chart is the Euro Swiss, and again, as I mentioned, I believe it was 2 reports back, and also during yesterday's report, long entry 46.90 with a stop at 46.30. 2 candles back, prices came down to 46.97, but that's it. So this entry did not trigger, and prices about 47.35. I would keep those orders in there. Again, that would be long 146.90 with a stop at 146.30, but there's a good chance that we might have missed the bottom here, and that's okay. That's just part of trading. The next chart and last chart is the Euro Aussie. During yesterday's session, prices actually got up to about, let me get the exact print here, about 158.61. Again, I was calling for a short at 159.25 with a stop at the 160 figure. So with this development, I actually might look for prices to exceed this high by just a little bit, and this would also hit the longer term resistance line here. So I'm going to go ahead and say short at 159 even with a stop at 160 even. And again, those are pretty straightforward levels at the figures respectively. So again, that would be short 159 with a stop at 160. Again, my name is Matt Russell. Thanks for listening, and please stay tuned for a preview of the Daily FX forums. I want to take this opportunity to formally welcome you all to the Daily FX forums. I want to go through the process of how I personally access the forums and how maybe you at home, if you want to access the forums in the future, might do so. The first thing you would do is go to www.dailyfx.com, and that will bring up, obviously, dailyfx.com, and usually there on the upper right hand corner, I'll go ahead and click on where it says forum, and that will bring up the first page of the forums. And this view, I personally don't use this view, but this view actually shows you the most recent posts on all the threads within the different sections, and a little detail about those posts, so you can read through and see if there's something catches your interest. But personally, I go ahead and just click on forums and view them in the more traditional sense. Now, these are different threads within the forum. There's a section on education, such as Daily FX course instructor tips, which would be good for newer traders, and then for more advanced traders. And I just want to go ahead, personally, the way I use the forums is I would go through the individual threads, just looking for trade ideas, maybe looking at charts, looking at certain lines that maybe I didn't put up on my chart, but another trader might have put up on their chart. I tend to, shy away from using direct trade recommendations from other forum members, but it helps me to sort of even out my analysis, make sure that I'm seeing things, with the right mind in terms of, I might be missing stuff that other traders can see, and that's my personal way of using the forum. Every trader is going to be a little bit different in how they use it. So if you want to ask questions, if you want to become an active participant of the members, you would have to go ahead and register. So that's what I'm going to go through now, is the registration process. So assuming you're brand new to the forums, or maybe you've been here a few times and you're not really sure how it works, so I just want to walk through again the registration process. This would be the front page where you would access, or the previous page. You'd have the same little box here on the left hand side. My username and password are already filled out here, but assuming you're a new member, you would click on where it says register, and that will bring up the registration page. If you give me one moment here while my browser loads. And actually first we're going to have some terms of service and DailyFX forum rules. I do suggest reading through the forum rules. Obviously, you know, profanity and spam and things like that are not allowed, but it also gives you insight on, you know, how to use the forum and how different traders can use it, you know, in terms of their individual needs. So you would go down to the bottom there, you'd click on where it says I have read all the rules, and then you would go ahead to the register, the formal registration page, and that will bring up here. And you can go ahead and select the username, and how about we'll use 4x, and that name is already in use, so maybe add a few more x's there. Again, it really, you know, your individual username is up to you, and you go ahead and fill in your password, your email address. Now, the most difficult aspect of registration for the DailyFX forums will be figuring out these letters in the box here. Now, I'm a semi-intelligent person, but I have a very difficult time figuring out which letters and numbers to use. Now, there is a reason for this madness. It helps with security, but I would suggest just going ahead and keep on clicking that refresh image until something comes through that you can actually identify and see. Then you can go ahead and enter your birthday, but you can decide whether or not to display that to other forum members. And then also, if you were referred by somebody, you can enter that information there. The time zone, that should default to your computer, but you should, you know, double check and make sure. And then you can opt in, and I would, you know, suggest opting in for these emails in terms if the administrators want to go ahead and send you some notices about the forum, and then you would complete registration. Now what happens is they would send you an email to the email address that you put up here, and that email will include a link, and all you would have to do is go ahead and click on that link, and that link will bring you inside the forum, and you would now be a member of the DailyFX forums. Again, this is Matt Russell. Thanks for listening.